Hey, welcome back to our podcast, Project Brightside, where we always look on the bright side even when things are looking pretty dark. I'm Dr. Shelby.
And I'm Richard Brito, and we're your hosts for today's episode.
Topics of discussion for our podcast include society and culture, education, and TV and film.
Each episode of Season 2 will have an interview of a guest speaker followed by a Bright Talk segment where we discuss a complicated topic in hopes of shining light on it.
For today's episode, we'll be interviewing Dr. Fran Close. Hi, welcome to our show, Dr. Close. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, and thank you so much for having me.
Super excited to have you.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, so I know you very well, but tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to professionally in the last year.
So again, thank you all both for having me on your show. It's always a little difficult for me talking about myself.
I totally
But
understand that.
I always tell Risha that. But one of the things that I guess I can first say that I am married 30 years,
Wow,
and I have three daughters.
that's awesome.
And I am a full professor at Florida A&M University in behavioral science and health education. And what I have been up to this past year, so thinking back, just I think we all go back and look at what we've done over a year. So
Mm-hmm.
professionally, I think I've done quite a bit just thinking about it. And one of the things I guess that I'm most proud of is that I was the major professor for three doctoral students who received their DRPH degrees
Wow.
in our program. So that's a lot of work, and was very excited about that. I also am a part of the Mental Health Council of the Big Bend, and I serve as the chair of our Engage Committee. And with the Engage Committee, we try to do community events and mental health awareness. And we put on several events this year that I'm super excited that we did, and looking forward to doing it next year. And we did the Black Men's Mental Health Training, where we were looking at men who have influence or who interact often with young men or youth that may have that, just because most of the time barbers and coaches, they actually serve as mental health professionals, just kind of a shade tree type person. So what we did with the training was just give them more information and more tools that they could use to assist those young people with mental health. They were able to do like a suicide prevention training and got certification for that. So it was really, really good. And so we plan on doing something with that as well.
That's awesome that you're like targeting specific training with like in circumstances where people could, converse and talk with each other and really like make an impact. That's awesome.
Some years ago, we did a community health needs assessment, and in this needs assessment, it really the results or the findings showed us that there was a lot of gaps in mental health services in our city, specifically with African Americans and with a certain side of our city or our county,
Yeah.
which that's why we're targeting those folks, right? So, and with the Engage Committee, which was really neat about it, was that we came up with a list of Black and Brown therapists, a list. There was no such thing in this city. And so during the pandemic, I actually sat down with the computer, looked at all of Psychology Today, an American Psychology Association, APA,
Mm-hmm.
and I went through every person to see who they were and what kind of insurance they took, because I thought it was important to start that resource. And it started off as just like a block, like 5 or 6 people on there that were in Tallahassee. Now I have pages of the Excel spreadsheet, because we are people now that know what we're doing, want to be involved, and are giving us their information. So that's one of the things that came out of that.
That's super awesome that you're building that network. A lot of like for instance, that's super useful for judges or for trying to make some like impact, and you're doing that, and that's very awesome that you're having your own niche targeted population.
And we also did another event called Be Kind to Your Mind, and this is more of a family event.
I love that.
And we did a lot with physical wellness as well. We had different people come out to like do yoga. We did chair yoga or exercises, and those are hard actually. If you
Yeah,
actually
yoga's
try to do
hard.
those, they are very difficult to do. But again, just giving people options. And we also talked a lot about sleep and the importance of sleep and how that helps you with your mental and your physical health.
Yes,
And then we talked
definitely.
about mindful eating. So all of those things just kind of helped to build on having good mental hygiene.
With mindful eating, I love that because it's basically removing judgment with what you eat. Like you could obviously have if you have discipline and control and you have an outline of like what you're eating and if you're doing well enough, you could also have a variety and still have those days that you eat your favorite thing and that mindful eating. I love that.
Yeah,
If you could
because all of
elaborate
those
more,
things go
yeah,
together. Yeah, yeah,
that would be
They
awesome.
do, absolutely. I think a lot of times you can also have people that end up eating or have found that eating could be a helpful way to manage distress or manage anxiety
Yeah,
or manage depression. But then that also kind of can become a cycle where for some people that
yeah.
furthers concerns about guilt or concerns about control. And so I like the mindful eating as well for multiple reasons. And I think one of them is it's important to think about the connection it has with not only our physical health, but mental health too.
absolutely. We also did just recently, last month, we did a Black Women's Wellness Experience, and the women got to have massages, like seated massages, a full dinner, and we had a panel just to talk about, because we was like, Thrive as You Rise, that was our theme.
Thrive as you
And it
rise.
was really, really good because a lot of times, women don't get that time to just pause for 10 minutes. And the one of the panelists, she's a therapist in town, she actually did a demonstration to show all of the roles that women will have. And she like, if you're the oldest, she put a cape on. If you have children, you're married, all of the roles you play, your sister, your aunt, and you put on these capes, and the whole thing is just to show you that you don't need all of that, and how the main thing she was showing us that you're choking, you're doing too much and you're weighed down, and it's hard to move if you're trying to be superwoman in all those roles. And I think just the visual was amazing. I mean, it was just, you look at that and you go, she said, the woman that had on the cape, she goes, I can't move. And she said, it's hard for me to breathe. And that was the point, that we need
Wow.
to shed some of those roles, or at least put them on our arms, that it's not like something that we are trying to accomplish every day, being a good wife, being a good sister, being, especially if you're oldest sister, she put on like two capes, and stuff like that. So,
I'm
and
an older sister.
I'm an older sister too, Dr. Shelby. That's why I said, oh my gosh, I would be like her. So again, those are some of the things that I have done, but I have been a part of. Those are my community events. Another thing that I've done in the community, our mayor here, our city, Tallahassee, was chosen as I think one of 8 cities, even across the world. And it was through the Bloomberg Harvard Initiative.
Wow.
And a part of that, I'm on the community awareness group, and that also has to do with mental health.
I'm so
So,
proud of you. Yeah, and I know the
yeah.
list goes on and on because you're
I,
also
yeah, but that's my list, and I probably got more. Like I said, I can't think of a whole bunch, but
uh, you're super
yeah,
talented. Like you're also a character. You sing for Morally Gray. We just
I
launched, the
did, I
U.S.
did.
Surgeon General speech, the overturn of Roe v. Wade, and also We Gotta Fight. So
I
I'm really
love it.
proud of you. We're
Thank you
working on
so
the
much.
visuals, so that should be out soon. For the next question, what kind of obstacles have you faced and how have you overcome them?
Just obstacle of trying to balance being a good professor,
Mm-hmm.
a good wife, a good mom, a good friend, and a good older sister, as we just said.
I love
So I
that.
think I mean, it's not obstacles, but it really can be weighted and it can be barriers to perform all of those well. And I,
responsibilities. You
right.
do a lot,
Mhm.
but you do it well. So I'm really
Yeah.
proud of you.
And I think I wear the smile well though, but there are sometimes like it gets to be like a hurdle, an obstacle to kind
Hmm.
of to manage being a mom, especially when my girls were young, to being a mom and trying to um, balance everything. But how
So,
I
hmm
overcame all of
hmm
those, I think if I think about it, I you have to be organized, and I think that's where I've overcome some of the things is just being organized, writing to-do lists, making sure because I've never missed anything that my children were involved with at all.
that's
I just had to
awesome.
make sure that that I was prepared for that. So I'm not sure. Like I said, that's a big question because I think we all have obstacles, but I
Yes.
cannot think of anything other than all of those things together that could, I guess, appear as an obstacle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this question's more so to demonstrate that we all go through stuff. Despite how awesome we all appear, we all go
Right.
through stuff and we all have to overcome it. And it's just showing people, what, or demonstrating to people what those skills are that you apply. And, what you mentioned here is you have a support system, and
Uh-huh.
that support system could also, expect of you, and you could also expect of them. It's family, and that comes with so many responsibilities. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that. You do a lot, and you do it well, and you are one of my role models. So,
So thank you, Richard.
Mine too now.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think and before we go on, I just want since you
sure.
like clarified that for going Dr. Shelby is that the one thing is that I think if you're just thinking about overall obstacles, sometimes you can be your own obstacle, and I think sometimes I have been because I have put the S on my chest
that's awesome.
and I got in my own way because there's some situations I may have not, and especially the beginning of my career, I didn't think I was good enough. Should I ask questions or was that a good question, whatever? And so I think those were obstacles. The obstacle was I felt like I got in my way if I looked at it based on what Richard said. But how I overcame that was becoming more confident in my who I was and what I brought to the table and what value I added to the situation. So it wasn't like when I got into those situations that looked like it was a barrier, an obstacle, I said, I bring something to the table. So that gave me confidence.
You just have so much presence, and you're just such a professional all around. And every time you've given, personal insight into your parenting techniques, it is literally from what I've read from the book. So you're spot on. So I'm very proud of you.
I need to write the book.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I
Okay.
definitely think that our perceived barriers or, real barriers that are intrinsic are sometimes equally, if not more so, debilitating than external barriers. So I think that was a very important
Yeah.
part to
Yeah, like we
recognize.
are our own worst enemy sometimes. Like we're very
I
critical, and sometimes we have to be kinder because we do elevate and we do grow. And
yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. I guess our next question, and you alluded to this a little bit, but what do you feel drives you in all this amazing work that you're doing?
I think what drives me is the fact that I have had so much support through my undergraduate. I was a college athlete. I just had so much support through my academics that what drives me to go to work every day is to give back to my students when I'm in the classroom or outside of the classroom talking to them. My children drive me, and that I want to show them that they too could have a career and have a family. And so I do it mainly just to give back. And not that I'm trying to go show anything, it's just that if I can help someone, even one person, I feel like I've done my job. And so giving back to my students, giving back to the community, as I said earlier, all of the things that I have been involved with in the community. If I can leave it better than I found it, that's kind of my mantra for now.
that's awesome. I've always loved research, but with you, like I've loved watching you teach, and This semester, I unfortunately didn't have you, but I did apply all the skills that I learned. I was able to mimic some of the teaching patterns that you've done, and you really are a role model professor and mother and friend, and you're just
Yeah,
awesome. So thank you so
yeah.
much.
Thank you. And Richard, and that's like to that when I hear comments from students, I don't have to get an award. Just the comments and just to hear what you have to say, that drives me to do it even better next semester and the
I
next.
appreciate you. I appreciate you. No,
Yeah.
seriously, I've learned so much, and my mentors prior, they carried me to where I'm at, and then you're taking me to the finish line. So
I'm there.
yes,
I'm holding the
yes,
ribbon. Holding the ribbon, Richard.
yes.
So our
Uh,
next question is, what are a few of your biggest priorities before 2024 ends? Which I know is kind of soon.
We have 15 more days or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
So my biggest priority, I want to at the by the end of the year read some of the books that I have. I love
Ooh,
books,
same.
and I haven't made it a priority this year or even this semester because my life kind of revolves around semesters. So I love historical fiction. I love everything James Patterson slash Alex Cross series. And I'm actually in the book club at FAMU is the Teaching Learning Center. And we read a couple of books already this year on AI and super courses. Again, that because I take those I'm in the book club and learning that kind of thing. That also gets back to the question of drive me. I want to be the best professor. Even though
Oh,
I've been at FAMU 26 years, I don't
yeah.
think I want to get better. So that's why I'm in this book club reading those books. But again, that's kind of more technical as I'm reading students' paper. So I just want to, the end of the year, and I don't know, this is kind of cliche, just do me, Dr. Shelby. Is that?
No, I love that.
I
I
love
just
I
that.
want to
love
do something because I give so much to everyone. I do. I'm the woman with the capes. And I do want to just sit back and enjoy my family. My girls will be home. So I just want to really do nothing. I don't know how to say that, but I never get to do nothing. But I
No,
remember
that makes
taking my daughters
perfect
to
sense.
this. I'm sorry.
I was just saying that makes perfect sense. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. I took my daughters to this, I think it was Christopher Robin's, and there was a scene where Piglet and Pooh were sitting with their backs to the screen, to the audience. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm doing nothing." And Pooh said, sometimes doing nothing is doing something.
Yeah,
Hmm,
So that's how I'm going to end my year, Dr. Shelby.
that's awesome.
Doing
And
nothing,
you
which
you
is
do have,
actually doing something.
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
It is.
You get to focus on things that you don't usually put time for because you have so
Absolutely.
many other
That's
things.
I only
Yeah.
got 2 weeks though, Richard. Not sure. I only
Yes.
got 2 weeks, so I got a lot to do in 2 weeks.
You reminded me of something that you said, like I think my first year of the program. You want to grow every semester, and that is your
I
mission
do.
every semester. And I
I
love
do.
that.
Yeah.
You're to have a professor that grows every semester and elevates and keeps himself at, the most up to date information. That is
Oh,
phenomenal. So
that's my goal.
I don't know if you definitely don't need one more thing on your plate, but I do have a historical fiction book recommendation if you'd like one.
Okay, no, let's do that. I do. I will get it. I'm one of those
It's
people though. I love books. Even as a kid, my mom had my aunt who I'm her child before she had children. She
hmm,
sent. I was in one of those book clubs. You got two books every month. And so I've always been a good reader, and my girls are like this. I tell them good readers make good writers, and because I have such a science math brain, because my PhD is in pharmacology, toxicology,
mhm.
Dr. Shelby, and it's so I have a math science brain. I was the only senior in world history my senior year. Was never one to memorize dates and know what war was this, right? So, but I can tell you all about DNA helix, right? I can tell you the bonds. I can tell you all
Mhm.
that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can tell you the history of that, but not in the sense of just history. So now in my older age, I am now, I'm excited about learning a more history, especially in the fictional arena. So thank you for that.
Of course. I'm trying, that's something I'm trying to work on as well, but it's called I Must Betray You. It's by Rupta Septis. And it's a book about Romania during dictatorship. And I thought it was quite good, but no judgment if you don't like it.
No,
Notice
no
my
worries. Thank you
write
for
it down.
yeah,
Of
thank you
course.
for the
I must
recommendation.
portray you, right? That's what you said?
Yes.
I got it. I just wrote it down. Thank you. Listen, I
That's
love books. I will be at Barnes and Nobles during my 2 weeks. I will get the book.
perfect.
That's
I love
awesome.
books too, so I got excited. I was like, oh, I have something. Hold on.
Oh, good. I good. I love it.
So as we cozy in for the year, what are some thoughts that come to mind when you think of 2025, how you see yourself evolving in this coming year?
I signed up for a half marathon.
That's awesome. I still have not done that. But that's awesome.
Um, and I'm saying that's something that I would not have done. So I can see myself evolving,
That's
right, into
yeah,
someone else, even though I work out 4 or 5 times a week at 5:30 every morning. I do that
that's
most of the time.
impressive.
So, but I never thought I would be in that. I mean, I ran cross country in college and all that, but that's something that I'm going to involve. I'm going to step up my physical health. But I also see myself growing professionally. I want to get involved with, again, back to the cape thing. Try not to put, I need to take off some of the cakes, but I want to do more things with my students as far as application of what we're learning that I started. I got really excited about the project we did in the class with you,
Oh yeah, that was
Richard.
awesome.
Right. And I want to do more of that. So professionally, I want to do more of that. I also want to grow by having more like career coaching so I can map out where I want to go. So within this next year, I want to start putting some of those things in place so that I can have it.
Yeah, that's awesome because you're already making like doctors, you're guiding, you're mentoring, you're
Yeah.
creating all these like professionals that are going to make an impact in the world. Like you could definitely branch off to all sorts of careers, and I think that's a genius idea. I
And
love
I'm
that.
going, yeah, and Rich, I'm sorry. I think as far as I can see myself growing in the next year, I'm trying to put something in place so that when I do retire, that I can, just step right into a field similar to what I'm doing. I don't think I'm gonna fully retire, but I just may retire from my current position, but I'll be doing something. So I
Oh,
think I'm
so
going to start thinking about what is next. Not so even though that's next year I want to start looking at my next steps.
that's awesome. That actually goes into our next question. What would you aspire to accomplish within the next 5 years? So, just with that, you don't have to say something finite, but what are
Yeah,
some
but
things that come up to mind that you want to try to establish?
okay, first of all, in 5 years I'll be closer to retirement. That would make me 31 years at FAMU in 5 years.
Wow, that's
So
awesome.
that I would definitely want to move from doing a lot of the hard things that I do. So I want to move back, want to kind of ease into retirement, but I want to just accomplish so much more as far as my teaching. I want to see that, just to reinvent how I do things in my teaching. So in the next 5 years, I really want to publish more of the what I'm doing, because I feel like if I'm retired, I want to leave a legacy of of excellence in teaching.
That's beautiful. You really are the personification of someone that's a hard worker, that like really is ever growing. I love that.
And I am. That's what I said. I think in 5 years, I really am thinking about where what I'm going to do. I think if you plan the next 5 years, and I know if like any of your listeners when they're talking about 5 years, I remember having my 5 year plan when
Mm-hmm.
I graduated from undergraduate at FSU, and in 5 years I had checked all of those off.
Yes, that
So I
you
think
know,
putting pen to paper. So now that you've asked me that question, I'm actually going to likely put something down on paper
I
just
love
based on what I
that.
remember. And I think putting pen to paper will also help me accomplish it because I'm going to keep looking at it. So thank
Yes.
you for that question because I'm going to now take it and use
Congratulations. I'm excited for what you'll accomplish.
it.
No, I'm inspired to do that too. I'll go write it down. Um, our next question, we've spoken about your career thus far and all of the amazing feats that you've had and kind of what your vision for your future development looks like. What's some advice that you would offer to someone who's wishing to pursue a career that looks a little bit like yours?
That's a great question, Dr. Shelby. I really do. If you want to be a in the professional academia, like at this level, the college level, I think one of the things that you really do need as far as skills is just having those soft interpersonal skills. You got to have a passion for it. And as I always say, I want you to see that I enjoy teaching
Yeah.
and I want to engage you while I'm teaching. So I think if you want to be in this profession, teaching is only a small part of what we do. You have to do research. So I'm doing that and have done that. You have to do service. I've done that and I'm doing that. But I think this is the most rewarding part of we always say TRS, is the teaching. And so if you want to do that, I think that now there are some people who get into this profession and the research is their focus. Okay, so if that is indeed the case, that is something that you need to stay laser focused on, and maybe instead of being a teaching faculty, that you may want to think about being a research faculty where there is your major focus. But if you want to teach, I think the service part of being an academician would be next, because the fact that I'm involved with the service that I'm involved with is because of my students. Um, I'm like, for instance, I'm on the Healthy Start Mom Network, which is a state board. I used to be on the Capital Area Healthy Start, which our local board. I was a president of that local board. But during that time, I was president of the local board. I got internships for my students, practicum that they could do at these places. Same thing with the HSMN board. I feel like at the state level, I'm helping people in the community because now we have Medicaid. We were really involved with implementing doulas for women on Medicaid. So things like that. I think you got to have that. I'm on the TMH board of directors. Again, having that voice from a academician and from a community member on the board, I think is important, and that also helps our students because I get to know people, I network with people. Guess what? That means that I'll have opportunities for my students. So
Mhm.
I think all of those things together, if you want to do that, I think the main thing is teaching, having a focus on the student. And if you have a passion to see others grow, and even I tell the students, and I know Richard probably, I want you all to be better than me. And he's heard me say that.
Yeah.
I want you to be better than who I am. So whatever I can do, I do that. So to answer, I don't know if that was a long way of answer that. The advice is to you got to love being a professor. You got to love being a teacher first.
Yeah, I love that. I think that was beautiful, and I've adopted that model too. That you said that the people that you're mentoring, you want them to surpass you. Like it,
Absolutely.
people that I mentor, I try to give it my all. I try to share everything and aspire, like help them aspire to be something greater. Totally, like
Absolutely.
we're sharing knowledge, and I love that about you, and I'm sharing knowledge as well, and that's mimicking. And there are also a lot of not a lot, but there are professors out there as well that do that, and it's very nice to have met and gotten close with a professor
Yeah.
that is like that.
And
So thank you.
yeah, and I think it warms my heart when I have students who go on and leave here and they just check on me, just say, "How are you doing?" And one of my students some years ago, start calling me her academic mom. And I think the main reason that she started calling me that is because when things got tough for her, I think she heard my mommy voice.
Aw.
Because that, and again, I do sometimes give tough love, and I think sometimes that's necessary, but I know who I can do that with. And so I like that. But then again, I've been there for all of the major parts of her life, right? Marriage and the babies and all of that.
Oh.
So I feel like I'm an academic grandma now because a lot of my students are having babies
Yes.
going into there. So I feel like I have like academic grandchildren. And so the thing is that I even though I say, I want you better than me, but I'm gonna give you the pressure so that you come out shiny. It's
Yeah.
not like hard pressure. It's just like I want you to think. I'm not gonna write the dissertation. I'm not gonna write the thesis. What I am gonna do is show you how to get down the road. Instead of kicking the can, you gotta hit one foot on that side, hit one foot on the other. Then you start walking the way you need to walk. So yeah.
I love that.
Thank you for sharing that. The last one of this part of our podcast is just what's one book or podcast outside of ours that you think everyone should experience or that you'd recommend?
Oh, one of my favorite books that everybody should read is The Four Agreements. Have you heard of that one?
No.
I haven't, no.
It is by Don Miguel Ruiz. And in the book, it's right here on my shelf. Let me show you. There are four agreements, and the thing is that it's a four agreements about
Oh,
what
I
you
have a
should do as a
copy.
corporate. Yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
one of the things I think everybody should read this book if you're trying to some of the things you've asked me, if you're trying to think about going to the next step and just getting the confidence on the personal, which then goes into the professional level and the professional part of you. One of the agreements is be impeccable with your words, say what you mean. And I think that helped professionally and personally. I think you also always should be impeccable with your words. Don't take anything personally. And as a professor, you can't. And as a mom, sister, big sister, Dr. Shelby, you just can't take it personally. It's not because of what you do, is what what it's them. It's the other person. You can't take everything because everybody in a situation may be going through something and your opinions may not agree with theirs. It's okay. One of the other ones is don't make assumptions. You know what that means, right? And because I know even like just this week, just talking, their communication is so key. So that means you can't make an assumption. If you understand what goes on, that's one of the ones I have to make sure personally and professionally, you can't make an assumption. You can't.
Yeah, you can't judge a
And
book
the
by its
last one
cover.
is always do your best. And it talks about how your best is not the same today as it's going to be on the 31st, right? So I always tell my children this is that if you gave your best today and your best was a C on the exam, that's your best today. When you take the next one, your best may be 100%. We'll take it. So always do your best. And I think those things, and actually now that I have picked this back up again, I'm going to read it again, Dr. Shelby. I'm going to read some more of this again because I think this is a part of some of the questions now that you've asked me about growth. I can look back and see, have I grown since the first time I read that book? Now, how can I
Yeah,
use this book to continue to grow personally?
I love that. And what's funny is that I actually have this book because my friend Ashley sent it to me, but this semester I did not have time whatsoever to read, but now I'm gonna read it because
I'm not gonna ask you to do a book report, but I can.
yes, I'll
But
definitely
again, those are. I mean,
talk
I
to you
don't know,
about it.
Dr. Shelby. That's what you can kind of pick that up. It's everywhere.
I will.
And
Yeah.
I think, and not that it may be a good Christmas gift to people, but again, if you just think about being impeccable with your words, I mean, and I'm one of those people, when I say something, I mean it. I'm not, and I need to walk away from it. I don't I don't linger around to do a whole bunch of explaining sometimes. I said it,
Mhm.
that's what I did. And so, and then, like I said, the one that don't make assumptions is the one that I know I've worked the hardest on, because just talking to people, you may walk away with, the clarity may not be there. You may walk away with different things that you both thought was the same. It's the misunderstanding and the miscommunication. So you
Sure.
got to make sure those things, so you won't make an assumption about what happened or what has happened.
That is awesome. I'm gonna read it too, and I'm actually looking forward to it. And so thank you, Ashley, for the copy, and thank you, Dr. Close, for the recommendation. So for our next segment, Bright Talk, where we discuss complicated topics in hopes of shining light on the matter, this week we will be discussing day-to-day of being a professor at a university. So the first question is, tell us about your journey to getting to being a full professor. So you mentioned that you're about to be in 30 plus years of teaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is phenomenal. So tell us about
Yeah.
it.
The journey all started, and I think, after getting my PhD, I did a postdoctoral training, and that's a part of my journey, because I learned so much in research and things that I needed to do. I was able to teach during my postdoc. I taught medical students, and that really did help me with, just my presence and just having the ability and the confidence to answer questions of students who were very bright. So that was really good. And then during that time, I was able to, and I think I've told this story before, that I got my 15 minutes of fame on NPR because I was looking at a hormone that had an implication with, or to, infertility in females. And so I just found out that FAMU they had the Institute of Public Health in the College of Pharmacy. So I was able to apply for my dream job, because I was able to do public health and teach the hard sciences. Because when I first started, I was teaching anatomy, physiology, and pathophysiology, right, and biochemistry. I was teaching those, but I also got to teach other courses in public health. And so I started off as assistant professor, and then I did my all of the teaching service research that I mentioned earlier. All of those things are important to get to the next level. So I became an associate professor. After 5 years, that's when you get to do that. And then after another 5 years, I applied to be a full professor, and I was granted full professorship. So that's my journey. But I made it a quick journey, but it is a long journey. And let me just clarify that everyone does not get to that journey. Some people stop at assistant or associate, and we are seeing more people stop at the associate level at the university and don't go up, because there's a lot more work. You got to do more publications to get to that. You got to do more, have, your good teaching and all of your service. All of those are going to help. So everyone doesn't get to be to do doesn't even aspire to be a professor. But when I was hired, my dean asked me what my goal was, and my goal was to be a full professor. So I did.
That's awesome. That's awesome that you had it like from the start. You knew
Yes, I
that
told him
you.
the first, yes, I'm going to be a full professor at Florida A&M.
That's
That is a good
amazing.
hire. Oh, having you forever. That is great.
So now that you've been a full professor, what's it like now? What kind of courses do you teach?
Yeah. I think that what it's like, mainly is that it's not the same type of pressure, because you got to get the publications, and there's guidelines that you go from each of those levels. But being a field professor even give you a little bit more like you breathe a little bit more, but you're able to focus on the things that you really want to do, right? Because there's something called post tenure review now, that you have to go and do some things, but you can relax a teeny bit, where you're not like, I got to get these publications by a date certain. Here you can go, I can continue to publish, I continue to do research, I continue to do all of those things. So I like this stage of my career, because again, a lot of the service that I'm doing, I probably would not have as much time as I am that I have now, because I would be like laser focused on the teaching and the research. Yeah, and what courses do I teach? Let me just say, I teach in our PharmD program. I teach in our Masters of Public Health on site or on campus and online, and I teach in our DRPH program. So with all of those programs, I teach a variety of courses. When it comes to like in the pharmacy, as I told you, I taught the basic science courses, but now I'm teaching an intro to public health in pharmacy, and I'm team teaching that. I used to teach it with one other professor, but now we're team teaching it with several of us. And in the master's and DRPH programs, I teach in the behavioral science and health education track. So there are several courses within that and within that program or in that concentration that I teach.
Awesome. So any favorite courses that stick out that you just love? I mean, I know that you love teaching all your classes, but any that stand out?
I I think my current issues in women's health
Okay,
is
yeah.
my favorite, because I I just love everything about the stages of life with women. And then I think men should take my class too. And I have.
Yeah, I'm not missing out on that class, the
Yeah,
current
I'm
issues
just
in
saying,
women's health.
yeah, right. And I think there's a lot to offer in that course, not just, sexual and reproductive health. There's so many things that I talk about, international women's health, or some things related to that. That's just one of my favorite, because I feel like we don't get, or our students don't get just the basics in health with all of the elementary, middle, and high school. They really just don't get those. But that's my favorite because it's ever revolving. And so I feel like every time I teach that course, it's current issues. I bring new stuff in every time I teach that class.
Yeah, I am basically done with my classes. I will still be taking your class though, because I think I have to take some extra classes to, get to that
For
full-time
electives,
status.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I've already done this spring I would have been 100% done with all my courses, but I'll still take that
Yeah.
current issues in women's health.
Yeah, I
Um,
like the other courses too. I like my planning and evaluation. If I say my second favorite, only because I want to mention that, because I want to mention the awesome job that the class, when you took that class, the advanced class, that we were able to again help a community organization with their evaluation plan.
yeah,
So
I
my
loved it. It was so
students were able
informative.
that, and that was my first time ever doing that, and I'm gonna forever do that starting
That's next level
now. I'm
stuff.
doing it again this spring because I thought that having you all have a project that was real life and that can be applied, and that if she actually is using the plan that you all came up with to apply for a grant. And so we as a class really should be proud to assist a community-based
Wow.
organization with their grant funding, because they're doing some amazing things.
That's awesome that they're able to take like, what we applied that semester and take it to the next level.
That's what she's doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because what you've taught us, we were able to apply it with an
Right.
existing community organization and the clients that they serve and elevate that business with their, as a class together. That was awesome. That really
And
was.
I've already reached out to another nonprofit, and I'm going to do it again in the spring.
Awesome.
They're based out of Atlanta.
That's awesome. You're making impact every semester as you also teach. That's amazing.
I need it to be fun for me as much as it's fun for you all. So I like to keep it, as the young people say, I like to keep it a little fresh. That's what young people
Yeah,
call
no,
it.
that's current.
What is that? I don't know.
I think so. I think it's current.
I think fresh is one of those things we get it, right, Dr. Shelby?
Right. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you on our show, and I can tell what an amazing professor you are, and what a great speaker you are. You truly do use your words impeccably, so I'll have to work on that. But this has been a wonderful conversation, and this is it for episode 3 of season 2 of Project Brightside.
Good job. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in and supporting us. Make sure to recommend our podcast to your friends and family. make sure to keep sharing. And we also have a lot more in the works for season 2. Until next time, take care and happy holidays.
Episode 3 of Season 2 of Project Brightside was executive produced by Richard Brito, Shelby Flohr, Luke Riosti, John Scribinich, Jake Riosti, Sofia Baez, Andres Gil Arana, and Zoe Rushetsky. Music by Jake Riosti. Edited by Luke Riosti and Richard Brito. And a special thanks to Dr. Fran Close.